What's good, everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in to a new episode of Tune Check Podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Chris. I know it's been a minute. I dropped my episode, like last month? But there's a lot going on for me right now. But, I'm back. I figured there's no better time to make a new episode than right now because, we had the Grammys last week, then we had the Super Bowl yesterday. Then Friday, we had J. Cole's new album come out. And y'all know that this album is something that we all been looking forward to. So I'm here. Got my review ready. Got some news updates for y'all. I hope you guys are all good. I know it's brick out here in the East Coast right now. I'm freezing. Like it's cold, man. Like I'm tired of the snow. I'm tired of the cold. Hate this, bro. It's so trash, man. One other thing too, I did get my J. Cole vinyl in the mail. Yesterday? The Fall Off vinyl. It's here. I did an unboxing. Put it on TikTok. I'm gonna put it on YouTube soon. But you already know, like, I don't even know if I face the camera right. Oh shit, I just bumped into the mic. But yeah, man, this is it's fire, bro. This album is everything that I thought it wasn't gonna be and everything that I thought it was gonna be, if that makes sense. But 10 out of 10 fire. But before we get into this episode any further, as always, like, subscribe, let me know what y'all think about this video, comment, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram, show some support, show some love. It only takes a second to follow, but I do appreciate all the engagement I've been getting. I do appreciate all the, recent follows and everything I've been getting, all the love. Shout out to you guys. But let me get into this episode. Let me pull up my notes, make sure I got everything ready. But all right, so we're gonna start off with like a little recap of January, basically with some things that happened, like what Drake's lawsuit with UMG, he's getting it reopened again. The Not Like Us defamation lawsuit. Pharrell got sued by Chad Hugo, which is, the other half of the Neptunes. I feel like we all know about that. 21 Savage was beefing with Fivo, however you say his name, bro. Like, I'm always confused. He brought Lotto into it because Lotto had said that she wanted to smash him in like freestyle, but then she stated that she only said that just to get like views and stuff. And then for some reason, Young Thug is now involved, which is crazy to me. I feel like this beef is just corny overall. Like, Fabio doesn't agree with 21 Savage's F the Streets movement. He even made a whole diss song dissing him too, but the diss was alright. Like it wasn't nothing really crazy to talk about. I don't know, but I feel like this beef is just like something corny. Rap beefs now are just like super, super corny. Like I hate that like the whole like rap beef culture thing is now just like for just money now. It's not really like intended to see who's better anymore. But aside from that, speaking about rappers who got beef, we got ASAP. So he was having a bunch of interviews just talking about his album, and then for some reason people just kept talking to him about Drake, and then he was just talking about Drake even more. Are you guys really using this man's name for promotion? Low key, because for some reason people just keep bringing him up constantly, especially about the whole rap beef and about him dissing Drake and Drake dissing him and stuff. And it's just like, we get it, like you don't like him, he doesn't like you. There's a lot of other stuff that ASAP could have talked about. Like he did talk about other stuff, but I just hate how it was mostly centered towards that. And then people just kept talking about him dissing, Drake on his album. The album was honestly fire. It's one of my favorites of this year so far. So just seeing how people just gravitate more towards him dissing Drake, it's just kind of corny. I feel like it takes a lot away from his music at times, but like his album is great. So just speak about your album, speak about your music. I think that would be the best thing for you to do. But shout out to A$AP for dropping a fire album. It's been on repeat. My review is up for that on my pages as well. I did an unboxing for one of the vinyls I pre-ordered. It's been on repeat for me for a while. Like it's an album that I really, really, really was super excited to get. I was waiting for it. I got tired of all the pushbacks, and I'm happy we finally got it. And it really is a nice, body of work. So check it out if you haven't checked it out. He also did mention that this 2 for Don't Be Dumb is on the way, because I always thought it was weird how this 2 only had like 3 songs on it, but he did say it's coming out soon. I'm not sure when. I'm happy it's not a deluxe. A lot of people do deluxe, but then again, like you could still see this as a deluxe in a way, but I don't know. Let's see if he like keeps if he has like a theme for it. He said the first disc was for the fans, and then the second disc was for him. So maybe he'll make like a couple more personal tracks on it. But aside from that, we got tours coming up. Ari Lennox announced her Vacancy tour. Fire. Her album is amazing. If you haven't checked it out, I'm gonna make a review video for it soon. Don Toliver's Octane tour got announced. Another great album that dropped. Something that I was looking forward to, that I'm happy we got. It's been on repeat as well. My review for that is up as well. And the tour is with Sababy, Sofego, and Chase B. So I think that's a fire lineup to have. I remember when I went to his Hearthstone Cycle tour, like what, I think like a year and a half ago with my friend. He brought out Lil Tecca like randomly. I thought that was so gas. Everybody was hyped. I don't know, just seeing him perform no pole like live was one of the best like experiences ever. And then the way he just did Tora for his intro and his outro, and like it was like a couple minutes long, honestly, because he like really dragged it a bit. But honestly, like everything was fire. Like I love the whole aesthetic. I love the steam for it. So I honestly think that this tour is going to be just as good. Like he's really good with, stage presence and everything. So, I may cop tickets for it because they're a little cheap right now, which isn't bad. The next Summer Walker's going on tour, still finally over it. She just came off a Breezy Bowl. Shout out to her. She sounded amazing live. She did a really good job. So, definitely look forward to this tour as well. And then the tour is also with Mona Leo and Odell. So I think that's a fire lineup as well. And then J. Cole is out here like selling CDs from the back of his trunk, all in North Carolina. I think he was just in South Carolina a couple hours ago. I'm not sure if that trunk sale is only for, North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm kind of hoping he comes over here to, New Jersey, New York, or like even PA, because I'll drive over there. I don't care. I know that's like 2 hours away, but it is what it is. I'll take that drive for a chance to meet him, just to dab him up real quick, tell him how big of a fan I am, obviously. I'm hoping it comes over here because I definitely wouldn't mind buying like a CD. And then next we got new albums coming out. So Brent Faiyaz is dropping his album Icon on the 13th, just in time for Valentine's Day. He did announce it a few months ago, so I'm super excited for this one. Not saying I'm a Brent Faiyaz fan because sometimes his music is like a hit or miss for me, but it's just like really good for R&B because we've had a lot of solid releases for R&B for like the past like 2 years, and I really hope it keeps going. And I feel like Brent Faiyaz has a really strong fan base. And I'm not saying he's not talented. He's super talented. It's just me. I just can't really get into it. But I'm still check it out because it's R&B. I love R&B. Another album coming out is The Scythe. So this is a new crew from Denzel Curry, with ASAP Ferg, well, Ferg now, BK Tarula, Tio Corine, and Kinata. But they're dropping their album strictly for The Scythe on March 6th. They released their first single, Lit Effect, and honestly, that track's fire. Definitely check this out. I'm gonna check it out. I think it's gonna be gas. I think it's dope that we're getting a new crew. Then you got P&D. He stated that he's dropping P5 this year. He went on social media saying that everybody's gonna start crying. So I'm super excited for that as well. P&D 4 was fire. I'm happy that he's continuing, the P&D series. But whenever he drops is whenever we get it. So looking forward to that. Shout out to P&D. Still waiting on that Some Sexy Songs for You tour, but might not even get that to be honest. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about is obviously the Grammys, you know, all of the awards, all of the winners, everything that happened in regards to hip hop and R&B. So Doechii won for best music video for Anxiety. I think that's a fire choice. I'm not mad about that. Anxiety was a song that was definitely out everywhere. When she released it, something that a lot of people were anticipating. The video was amazing too. So, I'm happy she won that. Leon Thomas won a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance, which, he deserves that. That's his award. His performances are amazing. With him with the guitar and the band and everything, he does a really nice job. He sounds amazing live. He also won Best R&B Album, and this is the person that I wanted to win Best R&B Album because his album came out, what, like 2 years ago? And, people are still singing it out here word for word. It's still doing good on the charts. He's still like, but he had like two tours off of that back to back. So definitely shout out to Leon, and I'm excited to see what else he's gonna give us. He did release his EP recently, which is great too. I'm just excited to see how far he gets in his career and how big he's gonna be. Like he's really one of the names right now that's carrying R&B. So shout out to him for real. And Bad Bunny won Best Música Urbana Album and Album of the Year for Debí Tirar Más Fotos, which also became the first full Spanish album to win that Grammy for Album of the Year. So shout out to him. I had a feeling he was gonna win. I knew he was gonna win. I called that. I was like, they have to give it to him because it'll just make his, performance at a Super Bowl more significant. Like I said, I'm not really the biggest Bad Bunny fan, like, he's one of the biggest. He's always breaking records, always doing big numbers. So you can't take that away from him. And also as a Hispanic man, seeing another Hispanic man win, that makes me happy. It makes me smile. He's putting on for us Latinos and everything. So shout out to him for real. Next, we got Kelani. So she won her first Grammy for Best R&B Performance and Best R&B Song. I'm happy Kelani won her first two Grammys. Shout out to her. Folded is an instant classic. Like that's gonna be played forever. Everybody's gonna know what that song is, who that song is from. So shout out to her. That's an undeniable classic. So it still gets played, still a banger. I don't think that song is going away anytime soon. Then next we got Duran Bernard. He won Best Progressive R&B Album for Bloom. I did a review for Bloom last year, I believe. That album was amazing. I still listen to it to this day. I'm happy he's getting his flowers. I'm happy he's getting this recognition. Duran is a really, really great artist. One of the best artists, honestly. Like he has an amazing voice. His performances are great. So shout out to him, and I'm happy he won. Like when he received his award, it was the funniest thing because he was running to the stage. First Grammy as an independent artist, so shout out to him. Next, we got Clips, who won Best Rap Performance for Chains and Whips, featuring Kendrick Lamar, which is one of the Grammys that gave Kendrick, his 5 Grammys. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not saying that Kendrick doesn't deserve his awards because we all knew he was gonna win all these Grammys. Like we all knew he was gonna get all these awards that he was nominated for. Like the Grammys love Kendrick, and every time Kendrick submits, he always wins. We know this, but it kind of makes it seem as if like the Clips only won so that the Grammys could give Kendrick the award and have him break the record for more Grammys than Jay-Z because Kendrick has 26 now. So I'm not sure. I don't know. That's how it seems like to me. Not saying that the Clips shouldn't have won. The Clips should have won a Grammy for sure because their album is impeccable. I feel like they should have won Best Rap Album in my opinion, but it is what it is. But it kind of seems like they only won because of him in a sense. Not saying that Kendrick is not, deserving of his award. He is, but Kendrick also won Best Rap Performance. Like I mentioned, he won Best Rap Song for TV Off, Best Melodic Rap Performance for Luther. Luther was going to win. Luther is one of those songs that, won't ever go away. It's a great song, and that song was everywhere. So, it made sense for it to win like the 2 Grammys that he won off of that. He also won Record of the Year for Luther. Like I said, there was no way that song wasn't winning a Grammy. And then he also won Best Rap Album. Like I mentioned, he has 26 Grammys now, surpassed Jay-Z. He's the rapper with the most Grammys now. But aside from that, so while he was on stage, accepting his awards, it kind of seems like people are hinting that he's teasing new music. When he pulled up to the Grammys, his right hand was wrapped in gauze, like as if he's about to box or he just left like the ring or something. Dave Free then posted on his story the same photo, with his hand zoomed in. And then Hitta J3, who also worked on GNX, posted a story of four-way boxing champion Pernell Whitaker. He also wrote Message from the Boogeyman on the same stories. Kendrick did win Best Rap Album 4 times. He's the first rapper to do that as well. So maybe it's a sign that something is coming, that we might have like a new Kendrick album on the way. He's very subtle with his album rollouts and announcements. Just look at GNX. Nobody knew that was coming. People were hinting at it for a while and then it just dropped randomly. I wouldn't mind having a new Kendrick album considering that he did preview the song Bodies and he never released it. So I'm guessing we may be getting something new soon. And to be honest, like I think that'd be fire. We just had J. Cole drop and then we got Kendrick dropping, supposedly, hopefully this year. And then we got Drake dropping too. So album from each of the ones on the big three, I think that'd be fire for this year. But shout out to all the winners, obviously. I'm happy. I really did like this year's Grammy Awards. I think it was pretty dope. The performances were amazing. Tyler did a good job. Justin Bieber did a great job. The D'Angelo tribute was amazing. This year's award was pretty good. Like I'm not really disappointed in it. I feel like they're getting better, like I said last year. But after the Grammys, we all talk about the Super Bowl, well, specifically the halftime performance, because I don't watch sports. I don't really give a fuck about sports. But, that was yesterday. Bad Bunny took the stage, did his thing. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Bad Bunny fan, but he really put on for us Latinos, and I'm super happy about it. It makes me really proud, especially considering that he said Ecuador too. I was like, oh, word, he actually said it. So that made me pretty happy, honestly. And the inside, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, felt like I was seen. Pretty sure everybody else felt like they were seen too, but it was gas, because usually when people talk about like, Latinos and Hispanics and stuff, there's only like three, like, you know, ethnicities that pop up. It's usually Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, or Mexicans. So happy that they said Ecuadorians. You know what I'm saying? Like gassed up. But it was a really good performance. He brought out Lady Gaga, brought out Ricky Martin, had Karol G, Cardi B, Pedro Pascal. He had Jessica Alba there, and La Casita and everything. Shouted out all the Latin American countries at the end. I feel like he did a really good job representing, his culture, Puerto Rico and everything, representing all of us Latinos. He had a football that says together we are America, which is true because, America, this land is stolen from other people. So it's no such thing as illegals if y'all stole it from somebody else. So it doesn't make any sense. And then on the back, while he was walking, naming all the countries and everything, there was a sign that says the only thing more powerful than hate is love, which is something that he said when he won his Grammy Awards. So, definitely like a full circle moment from there. But it was a really great performance. I don't see, obviously, people are always going to hate on it. They hated on Kendrick's last year when it was great. They're going to hate on Bad Bunny's this year and it was great. People always seem to have an issue, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, like this man delivered, he served, and it's going to be talked about for a while. And I feel like he was a pretty good choice, especially with everything going on with the Latino community. So shout out to him. Shout out to Super Bowl for picking him. Well, Jay-Z. Then next we got J. Cole. So, he dropped Birthday Blizzard 96 on his birthday, January 28th. Whole mixtape is fire. It was amazing. People are saying that he dissed Simba. I mean, I don't think he dissed Simba because, J. Cole's been calling himself Simba for like the past years now. Like ever since he dropped his mixtapes, he's been naming himself Simba for that long. Simba did reply. I didn't get a chance to listen to it because honestly, like I don't really care about him dissing Simba if he did, or Simba replying. I'm not there for that. I'm there just for J. Cole and his music. A week later, he dropped the Fall Off. And then 10 of J. Cole's albums charted on Apple Music right after the Fall Off came out. And this album, bruh, so good. And obviously, I'm about to jump into my review right now because I feel like that was a good segue. Hopefully, I don't know. I kind of made it awkward right now, I guess, but it is what it is. I'm happy about this album. So J. Cole finally dropped the Fall Off. It's a double album, 24 songs, hour and 41 minutes long. Features are Future, Thames, Erykah Badu, and Burna Boy. I didn't expect any of these artists to be on this album. I didn't expect this album to have features at all. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded if there wasn't any features. He's done it before without features, so I didn't really expect nothing of that, like I said. And I'm gonna keep it 100. My favorite, like this whole album does not have one bad song. Everything's fire, everything's amazing. But the songs that I do see myself going back and listening to consistently is definitely Poor Things. That track is insane. His flow, his energy, amazing. Legacy. Legacy is another great track, another favorite of mine. Who the Fuck Is You is another favorite of mine. Drum and Bass is another favorite of mine. 39 intro is one of the best album intros I've heard in a really, really long time. Quick Stop, that song is crazy, bro. That song had me like tearing when I first heard it because just his passion and his energy on that song is just amazing, bro. Like I didn't expect nothing like that. But those are my favorite songs out of like the whole album being my favorite, if that makes sense. But those are the songs that I keep going back to and listening to be honest. He chose the perfect time to drop the album, 2626 resembles his home, 2-6. Also because, he did mention that this has been 10 years in the making, after the rap beef, after he apologized at Dreamville Fest, people started talking to him or talking about him crazy, like, he's not in the big three, oh, he's not hip hop because he apologized, this and that, claiming he's the best, but he doesn't want to show it. He explained himself already. That's my friend. I'm not beefing with my friend and I'm not gonna go that low because Kendrick and Drake, they went low, bro. Like, and Schoolboy Q even warned J. Cole about not, joining in and getting off of it. So he did the right thing, something right for him. J. Cole's always been about peace of mind and everything. And I feel like that definitely plays into this album because, the second half is about him, finding peace, being happy. This was a perfect time for that because, you get to see him more as a person, see how peaceful he is and see like why he didn't want to jump into that. Also because, people are saying that he's not lit no more, he's not him, he's not hip hop, that he fell off, what perfect time to drop the fall off when people think you fell off, but in reality you didn't. Like you're just at your prime, like you've been saying. And I'm choosing to leave now while I'm at my best because, everybody who waits to retire, their careers tend to go down because of their skill and because of their music, their quality isn't there. But not him, like this J. Cole, bro. Like J. Cole's really the GOAT, bro. Like I don't care, bro. He can't do nothing wrong in my eyes, bro. But with any J. Cole album, bro, the production on this is top tier. His lyrics, his bars, the way he delivers them, it's all just goated. Like I love how he has R&B vibes on here. He plays with jazz elements. What was it? The Let Out, he started with like a little corrido and shit. I was like, wait, what? And then, it turned into like a whole like alternative like rap song and stuff. Got 90s rap beats. Again, he has alternative sounds as well. Everything is just done so effortlessly. Even the storytelling, it's something that you definitely could expect from someone like J. Cole. His mastery on it is just insane and on different levels. He raps from a ton of different perspectives, and one of them stands out. And the ones that stand out for the most from this album, is Safety, where he raps from his friend's perspective. You see the world and, his home 2-6 through his friend's eyes, what's going on, what he's going through, his life and everything. Then you got What If, which is one of the most notable songs on this album, where he speaks from Biggie and Pac's perspectives. Definitely a standout track, like I said. Then you got The Ville, where he's speaking to his younger self. The same thing with Bombs in the Ville, Hit the Gas. Then there's Quick Stop, like I said, bro. That song is amazing. Where he's rapping from, a fan's point of view, where he's meeting him, telling him how he looks up to him, how his music inspired him, how I got him through hard times. But this album is very 90s and 2000s inspired. Like I said, like he plays with a lot of sounds, and when he released like the images, man, I got the vinyl right here. Let me show y'all, bro. I think it's upside down. See this part right here when he dropped, it is upside down. It is upside down. So when he dropped like the cover, the front and the back, you see like all these albums at the bottom. They're all albums that he had up in his room, everything the people that he looked up to, the music that he liked, the artists that he looked up to that inspired him. Once I saw that, and he said that this is from when he turned 39 and then, was 29, the whole like 10-year gap and everything, rapping from two different age perspectives. I already knew that this was gonna have 90s and 2000s like beats and samples and stuff. The samples are from Outkast Elevators on the Villas. You hear that DMX how it's going down. Hear that on Life Sentence, which is a great track because he did a really good job of copying DMX's cadence, his voice and everything. Then you got Jenny from the Block on Man Up Above, T.I.'s 24 is an Old Dog, Usher Nice and Slow, Bounce Roll Blues, where Future comes in and sings, 7 o'clock on the dot. I didn't expect that, but he did that, yo. He got that. Then you got Devin the Dude trying to live on Quick Stop. Then on Safety, you hear the inspiration from Nas's One Love. The Village, you hear the inspiration from Mobb Deep's The Realest. Fall Love is Inevitable is basically his own version of Rewind from Nas, like I said before, which is amazing. And then another track that's like one of the most that stands out is I Love Her Again. It personifies hip hop as a female. When I was listening to this at first, I'm like, yo, like, this reminds me of Common. I'm like, is he doing what Common did? And then, it turns out that he's doing the exact same thing. And honestly, I was really fucking with it. Like when I heard it, I was like, no way, like that's fire. I think I used to listen to Common song. I used to love her all the time. I remember when I was watching, it wasn't Yo MTV Raps. I think it was when they had like a reunion. It was like a couple years ago. I was like a kid when this came out. I think it was like when they were talking about like how the significance of the show. Was it Yo MTV Raps? I'm not sure. It was like a rap show on MTV, and they were talking about like the songs that, helped define like the 90s and everything. Busta Rhymes was there. They was talking about his verse on a Tribe Called Quest song. But one of the songs that they were talking about was Common song. And they were all like they were all saying how they all had the same reaction at the end when he said, I'm talking about hip hop. Because everybody was like, damn, he's talking about a girl. And then at the end, they were all like, whoa, it's all hip hop. They were all like shook and surprised. That's how I was introduced to that song. I was like a kid when this came out. And then when the show came out, when that episode came out, so I started listening to that song. I'm like, damn, this song's fire. And then that's when I started like getting into Common a little bit more. But just hearing J. Cole do this on his album, it felt like kind of like a full circle moment to me because I was like, damn, like this is how I learned about this song. And then on your last album, you're gonna, do this. I'm like, okay, that's fire. And he does make a little reference to, Drake and Kendrick's beef on this song. The line says they fought over love and jealousy. Hip hop was saying they're the best I ever had, upon a Drake song, which also does show that, he's still Team Drake because he could have used the Kendrick song, you know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. I'm not, maybe I'm making it a little deep because a lot of people are like really trying to pin everybody against each other, but it's not really like that. I don't think it's like that. And then he says that, but she was saying that to me too. So it's like, damn, like I really liked how he went on this. I really like how he floated on it. I love what he did with the track. I like how he made it his own. But I feel like this album is a classic, an instant classic, a generational album. J. Cole went out the best way he possibly could, like he said. I love how he broke down the album into two parts. You got this 29 when he's younger. He just became, successful from his music, reflects on that a lot. His home, his experiences, his career. Does a really good job of showing us that change throughout the album. He does go through a lot of his errors on here, but like the first like 4 or 5 songs on, this 29, you hear like the hunger that he has from like a lot of his earlier mixtapes. Then you got songs like Safety, Quick Stop, and Bombs in the Ville Hit the Gas that remind me of For Your Eyes Only due to like the jazz elements, storytelling. Then Run a Train reminds me of, 2014 Forest Hills Drive. It kept reminding me of A Tale of Two Cities. I kept making that connection to that. Poor Things kept reminding me of the off season. The aggressiveness on there, it's more rap and bar heavy. KOD 2 6, that was like a trap heavy beat. KOD was when he really like jumped into like the whole like SoundCloud rap trap era thing. And then Who the Fuck Is You just reminded me of My Delete Later. That whole aggression, it sounded like it just belonged on that mixtape. So like I said, the first half he reflects on his career and he shows vulnerability on certain tracks as well. So you got Run a Train, he opens up about his motivation. It kind of sounds like he's doubting his success. Bounce Roll Blues, it's an actual place in his hometown. He says that he says, fuck J. Cole, I want to rebuild myself. He's feeling like the pressures from his career, pressures from his success from rap, the pressure from his hometown. He wants to rebuild himself as a person and he wants to like help rebuild where he's from as well. Then there's Run a Train, he opens up about himself. Then you get the song Legacy. It kind of seems like to me the song was kind of about not living in the moment. He's struggling with fame. He mentions that he has a fear of missing out. He's getting a lot of FOMO. Keeps looking back at things and he's tired of doing that. His fear of giving too much because he thinks he won't really get anything reciprocated, which makes sense. You got Drum and Bass, which is a fire song too. He reflects on his position in rap, opens up about how his pen is unmatched. He keeps claiming that he's the greatest. His success brings fake love, especially post beef. That look at all the fake love that just came out of that. People was like, "Oh yeah, J. Cole, you that guy," and then after that, like everybody just was like, "Nah, nah, nah." You know what I'm saying? And now everybody's pretty much on his dick again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it don't make no sense. And then as the song progresses, you could hear his verses, bars, and storytelling just drastically get better, which also was kind of like, like a nod to the album because he starts off early in his career, then he ends it later in his career, and his skills are better and everything. So I was like, okay, that's cool. That's a nice little foreshadow. And then you got the Let Out, a song about, how being famous is dangerous, how people are quick, just to come for you and do anything just to, get money or just pull a fast one on you, hurt you and stuff. Man's pretty much got set up by a chick in the club just to show you. And even in the words themselves, it's like, damn, am I gonna survive this? Am I gonna make it out? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy, bro. Then you got Bombs in the Ville, Hit the Gas. He brags about his success. This is where his past meets his present self. He talks to his younger self, warns him about the fame, warns him about how people, will dispose of you quick. Again, it reminded me of the whole rap situation, the whole rap beef situation. Speaks about his kids, reminds him that he isn't falling off, that he chose when to quit. Then you got Lonely at the top where he talks about where he has lack of motivation, nobody that could relate, reflects on him being at the top and how when you eventually make it there, like you're eventually going to drop. So that's why, he even has this line that says ones you look up to unfortunately had to drop. So this is why I feel like this is a great, time for him to drop it because, he's one of the best right now. He's had his best. If he chooses to go out now, I think that's smart because a lot of people wait until like they're pretty much washed to just end their career, retire. And at that point, nobody really cares. So, you know what I'm saying? And then on this 39, he's 10 years older. All of his experiences are different. He has a certain peace of mind. He's learned a lot of things from his success, from his fame. And you could really hear his peace of mind. You could hear his growth in his music and as a person and his experiences on this 39. So again, this 39 sounds with this 39 intro. That intro is one of the best album intros I've heard in a really, really long time. Like I said before, it's amazing. Like I keep going back to that. It's fire. It's one of the best. Hats off to J. Cole, man. Shout out to the GOAT, bro. Like he really just did his thing on that. So, on that track, he keeps like a calm composure, but while he does that, he's delivering these amazing verses, amazing bars. Like I said, delivery. Like I said, his delivery is just impeccable, bro. Like raps about achieving his dreams, his newfound hunger for rap now, mentions the rap beef, never would see the day that they would play with my name, and all of that fueled him to pretty much go back to the top. He stands on his view that he's still number one, and it's true, bro. Like I don't care what anybody says, bro. I don't care, bro. Like he's doing his thing. People just hating, bro. Oh yeah, he apologized. He's not, nah, bro. That doesn't take away his skill. That don't take away none of the great music he's dropped within the past years. That doesn't take away nothing, bro. I don't care. Then you got the fall off is inevitable after that, his rewind track. The song is pretty much Cole realizing that, this is all for nothing. Like we're all gonna fall off eventually. That's what he says, this is how I see it. We lose everything once we're gone. So he accepts all of that. He embraces, that thought. It continues to convince you like why he's choosing to leave now. He's at peace with his decision. He don't care what nobody says. This is what he wants to do. He feels accomplished. And it really reminds me of Born Sinner. Born Sinner was that album where he like grew as a person, matured and his morals grew, where he realized that like none of the success matters, all this is materialistic, that's which is my favorite J. Cole album, to be honest. So this track reminded me of that whole album. Then you got the Villas, throughout his career, he's always mentioned his home as the Ville. He's the best representation of his home. He reflects on that, on his younger self. Motivation to be great, his old hunger, his fear and depressions, all of these hidden emotions come out. All these hidden emotions that he's reflecting on. And now he's wealthy, he's finding out that success to him isn't what he thought he was going to be. Now he just wants to be happy and peaceful. He's speaking to his younger self about how dreams won't really make you happy like you think they are once you get it. Then you got Old Dog where he reflects on his career. He says, no more record deal. Yeah, I'm fresh out of slavery. Can't teach Old Dog new tricks. He's a humble king. Even with all the success, he's still choosing to go back to, 2-6 and live there, not doing nothing crazy, helping out his community and stuff, still being himself. Then you got Life Sentence. I guess I could bring Only You into this as well because they're pretty much both about the same thing. He opens up about, love and his commitment to his partner, the only commitment that matters to him. I like to play on Life Sentence, the title itself, because when you hear Life Sentence, you think first thing that comes up is jail. You locked up, you gotta do life in jail now and shit. But in his song and the way he views it as, it's a commitment, to love your partner, to be there for them and everything, reveals how he had ups and downs in that relationship, but he also reflects on how hard it is to be committed to music and the freedom that you feel when you're young because you don't want nothing tying you down because that's all you care about. But for him, he was able to go back to that and commit to this person, and now like, they up. And then he eventually matured into choosing love and committing to her and, his family now. Then you got Man Up Above. I feel like this is one of the few instances where I've ever heard Cole talk about like God and religion and stuff. Talks about his connection to God. He even talks how like even though he put in the work through his career, God was the one that made it possible for him. Then you got Quickstart where he's finding reassurance within himself. He sees that his career is more than just stats, like he doesn't care about none of all that, none of the numbers, none of the sales. Like he just wants to be happy and deliver great work that makes him happy. It's a full circle moment from the first half where all he cared about was just accolades, getting bread, being number one in sales, selling all these CDs and stuff. You know what I'm saying? This shows a lot of humility in him. And then, like I said, bro, this is one of the tracks that like really hit home. I'm like, damn, like that made me tear up a little bit because it was a powerful song. You could really hear his aggression and his passion, and he really like portrayed that perfectly, like while he was rapping it. Then you got the last song, The Whole World is the Ville. He's the hometown hero. He's the Ville, anthem for his home. So it really all just comes full circle. Like from him just, having hunger and just wanting to like be out here making money, getting all this to him, just like, nah, none of that matters. As long as you're somebody in your hometown, as long as you remain yourself and, you find peace of mind and everything, then you're good. And like I said, bro, like I don't want this to be J. Cole's last album, but if this is his last album, man, like there is no better way for him to go out. This is like the perfect, exit. But shout out to Cole, man, dropping a 10 out of 10 album. This is album of the year. I don't care what nobody says. Nothing's topping this. People in the comments, I've been seeing people in the comments say the craziest things, bro. Like, they're like, nah, it's not. Nah, this is mid. I don't know how you think this whole thing is mid. I think you're just hating. You're not listening to it, but it is what it is, bro. This album is 10 out of 10. Shout out to J. Cole, man, the GOAT. I can't wait for him to announce these tour dates. I hope he announces a tour because I need to see him before he retires, man. Like, I don't even think he cares about that, but you got to go on tour, bro. You got to. But with that being said, that brings us to the end of the episode. Yeah, for watching. Hopefully y'all subscribe, like this video, and comment. Hopefully, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. Shout out to y'all. Stay safe out here, stay warm out here. Enjoy y'all Valentine's Day. Enjoy y'all February. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.